Hello, dear friends. I'm on here again, and I'm still talking about fear or disappointment, unbelief, whatever you want to call it. But I know I have some friends that are going through some really hard times, and as I shared last time I recorded, we kind of have our backs up against the wall because locally no one can help John with his heart situation. So we're headed to the Mayo and hopefully to find it's a risky surgery, but hopefully to get help. But many of you are in similar situations. You have your back up against the wall. You've had a diagnosis that is dire, or you see no help for your child who is off into something, or I know a few individual stories, but you all have a story. If you're watching this, it's because you're probably going through a hard time. I have a friend whose son has been in the hospital for 2 years and in dire circumstances, in dire need of the hand of God to move. So there are lots of situations that people around us are going through that are kind of Red Sea moments. Our back is against the wall. I read to you from this book, and it's by a man that realized that he could see in the story of the Red Sea that there were a lot of rules there. First one he shares is Red Sea rule number one, realizing that God means for you to be where you are. I'm going to tell you that's one of the hardest to accept, but um, the children of Israel, God told them where to camp. He gave them the towns and the exact spot to camp. And here comes Pharaoh, and they're hemmed in. They're in essence in a cul-de-sac with nowhere to go except through the Red Sea. Well, guess what? God parted the Red Sea for them. Well, I've had a few Red Sea moments in my life, but one of them was when Jan, our daughter that suffered brain damage, was just a few months old. And this is in the book, God's Grace Keeps Pace. And it's on the chapter called Jesus Take the Wheel, chapter 6. But we had been through night after night of crying and seizures and no responses. And I put all my hope on a doctor's appointment. Can't believe I did that, but I did. I put all my hope in that doctor's appointment. A neurologist who had out several books. In my 20-something-year-old mind, he was going to have all the answers. Well, that morning when I went to that appointment, I went with my daughter by myself, and this doctor said, all the time treating my daughter like a sack of potatoes, this child has severe brain damage. She will never smile or respond in any way. You need to put her in an institution and get on with your life. I left that morning not realizing that I let that negative word knock the hope out of me. And you've all been there. You've had the doctor say you have terminal this, or you've had the diagnosis about your child, or I don't know what Red Sea moments you've had, but you've had them, and they knock the hope out of us if we're not careful, and they put us into fear. And but God very definitely is his presence is in the midst of what we're going through. He knows, he sees, he cares. And but at that moment, that my Red Sea moment, um, I lost my hope. But God, again, he knows where we are, he sees what we're going through. One morning I picked up a devotional book and I read, Resignation to my will is a greater barrier than unbelief. And I had to read that a number of times. I can't tell you how I knew God was speaking, but I knew he was speaking to my heart. Resignation to my will is a greater barrier than unbelief. Then I saw what he was saying. I had resigned myself to the fact that my life would never be any different. Jan's life would never be any different. I believed every negative word that doctor said, and in doing so, I had lost my hope. And where there is no hope, there is no faith. Have you ever been there? There's a lot of fear, but there's no faith. I had stopped trusting God to work in our situation, the very thing I said I wouldn't do. I'd stopped expecting him to take something hopeless and work it to my good. I, in fact, by doing that, had closed the door to his blessings by my despondent attitude and my resignation. I actually was walking at that time in self-pity, but I didn't recognize it at all. God knew it. And then when I recognized it, I said, God, please forgive me. I don't believe you gave Jan back to us to never smile or respond in any way. Let her know the joy of being loved and let her experience happiness. Let her smile and laugh and enjoy life. Since I knew God had given her back, I couldn't believe that he wanted her to never smile or respond, never know she was alive. And so at that time, at that point, I said, Lord, my eyes are changing to you. For several mornings, I knew Jan did occasionally smile. I took the action to take a camera and wait to capture that smile. And one morning, I captured that smile. So my attitude changed and my joy returned, and I stepped back into the battle. Do you know, when you resign yourself to your situation, you don't expect God to work. You don't look for the blessings. You don't look for how he wants to mold you and shape you through whatever you're going through. You bound things up. I had bound things on the earth. It says things that are bound on earth are bound in heaven. I bound things up by not believing for anything. I'd forgotten that Jesus said he came to give us abundant life and that with him nothing was impossible. I'd forgotten that he said what I committed to him, he'd work to my good. One step at a time, he taught me to keep my eyes on him, believe what he says in his word, and, take those worries and shape them into prayers, and then keep your focus on him for what he's going to do. I played one song over and over in my heart. Turn your eyes upon Jesus and look full into his wonderful face, and the things on earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. That is so true. I wrote a definition for resignation at that time. I had put God in a box by saying, my situation is hopeless. And resignation says, now, I accept my situation is hopeless, but I can't see how anything good can come out of it. We may not realize, I didn't realize that's what I had done. Resignation is disappointment with my lot in life. Ultimately, resignation focuses on the circumstances and feeling sorry for self. True acceptance trusts that God can work even this to my good, and it expects him to move. True acceptance focuses on God, not the circumstances, and continues to praise him with an expectant heart. And I've come to believe another word for true acceptance is hope in Christ. That's where it all boils down. No matter what we're going through, no matter what the diagnosis is, no matter what the circumstances are, there is still hope in Christ. I think about Corrie ten Boom in a concentration camp. God did wonderful things in the midst of that concentration camp for those women who turned their eyes on him. And so it's the same for us, ladies. And I guess I feel like mostly ladies are watching this. And so that's our first lesson, is to learn that in the midst, and I'm looking for this Red Sea rule, realize that God means for you to be where you are. He will not let you be tested more than you can stand, but when you're tested, he will also make a way out so that you can bear it. So we need to always keep that before us. He will make a way. For the Israelites, he made a way for them to cross the Red Sea. He will make a way for us. And, we have to hold on to that and walk in. That's how we walk in victory. I hope you're having a good day, and whatever you're going through, know God sees you, He hears you, He knows, and you have to rest your case there no matter what occurs. He cares, He loves you. Thank you.